Welcome back. Today we're going to do a very quick one on NDZR. So ND is the brand. They've been around for a little bit of time. I think sometime last year they appeared with a few models, and ZR happens to be one of their most recent ones. So there's not a whole lot written on ND and what they really want to do, but they've actually pumped out quite a few models so far, and ZR is one of them. So this one is a 10 millimeter dynamic driver. I think it's a DLC actually. They call it a diamond diaphragm horn, so we'll call that DLC. Tuning wise, it's kind of hard to tell what it actually is, but nice shells. They're okay, kind of typical of what you would find at $20. So let's kind of quickly walk through some words, and then we'll show a graph, and then we will move on. So what is it? It is another treble pinna high flyer. It's got a really high pinna gain area. You can call it neutral bright, but typically this kind of tuning really resembles some regional tuning. They probably tuned it for their domestic market and happen to decide it's a good idea to sell it internationally, and that's kind of what it sounds like. It doesn't make as much sense in Western music because the pinna gain is so high, but I think they had it done and decided to test out the Western or global market, and I think that's kind of what they did. So is it executed well? I would say not really. I think the driver isn't really up for this task. It's not all that easy to do a really well done neutral bright, and you kind of need like a decent driver, and it's got to have some resolution. This one just kind of sounds bright, but the resolution isn't quite there, and it just ends up sounding quite thin, and it mostly just sounds just thin, and turning it up won't really help. Who should buy it? Pretty much low volume, neutral bright fans. And I would say in this style, there's a couple sets that did okay. TKZ K Wave is one, and Tin Hi-Fi T2 DLC is actually pretty close on the graph. And of course, TKZK is actually a sub brand of Tin, and Tin tends to do this style quite well. So that's kind of why you end up with two Tin sets being around here. But so here we are. So here's NDZR in the red. So get this kind of subtle neutral-ish bass bump, and then just that's about 15 dB, a pinna, a couple peaks, and then a bunch of stuff out here. But really all you're going to hear is this and the lack of bass, and it just kind of sounds thin and a little bit shouty, and it's just too much basically for the global market. But if you look at TKZK Wave, they did something really cool. That one was like totally flat, but they brought down the pin area down to something reasonable so you could listen to it, and then has a peak and then it drops. So not as consistent as some other sets, but in the realm of this tuning, not all that far. And then if you look at T2 DLC, you can kind of see it matches right up until about there, and then T2 DLC actually cuts over at Harman, and then kind of dips and has some extension out there. But quite a reasonable sounding set, especially for the global market. That's probably closer to what will be general appealing, as opposed to a pinna area that's hitting about 15 dB, and that's very much a low volume, not as much of a likable or generally appealing style sound, what you get when you bump it up that much. So that is what we got on NDZR. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.